Suffering from delusion of views and thinking. On the initial verse, birth and death continuing one after another, which is the cyclic existence. So in very much the same way as we go to sleep every night, we so-called die during the day and wake up the next. The difference between sleeping and dying is one has amnesia, the other one doesn't have amnesia. So so when you have amnesia, when we wake up, we forget all the money that we borrowed. So therefore things come to us, and then we ask, why is he asking me for money? So that's the difference between rebirth from death and one that is sleeping. So from delusion, that is what delusion is. And from delusion, we create karma because we have amnesia of what we have done in the past. So we don't know. When the karma comes to us, we react in a certain way, and which leads to suffering because we do have unwholesome thoughts, then will lead to unwholesome deeds, the speech that we say, or from the actions that we do. So the delusion that lead to creating karma, and nurturing it bring about future existence. And that future existence is the rebirth. So in this future existence, whatever bad things we do in this life, when we take the rebirth, we've totally forgotten what we have done in this life. So therefore, the karma will come to us in a future life. And with amnesia, we totally do not know all this unwholesome deeds have been done. So things would inform that person and get afflicted by whatever comes to the person. So has karma put us into entanglement, making it difficult to transcend birth and death. Why is it difficult to transcend birth and death? Because we do not accept the karma that come to us, and we get entangled, and one thing leads to another, and so they will get very afflicted by whatever comes to us because our habitual tendency will arise. So only by eliminating the film of afflictions can one be completely purified of the dusts. So in Master's explanation, in a moment of carelessness, we can create disputes and resentments in our relationships. And indeed, we can, either by the things we say or the things that we do. And all this comes from the mind. So when obviously when you have an evil thought, you will have an evil deed and you will have an evil speech, and vice versa. So in what direction do we want to walk in our future lifetimes? We may not have any idea. So right now, all we can do is make the best of the present time. And so when we make the best of this present time is to avoid any unwholesome deeds and unwholesome speech from ourselves. But the source of that deed or speech must arise from a thought. So therefore, and this is the part that Master mentioned before, we got to apply the right efforts to generate the right thoughts. If you don't have the right efforts, whatever thoughts that arise, we have no control. And when that thought arises, we think it's the right thought. So habitual tendencies are the delusions that lead to creating karma and nurturing it. All karma pulls us into entanglement, making it difficult to transcend birth and death. And because of these pullings in our life, and we keep reacting based on our habitual tendencies. So the Dharma is the only thing we can take to heart if you want to purify ourselves, so that we can take the Buddha Dharma, get it internalized into, or to have the Dharma seal in our heart, and thus permeating the fragrance of Dharma by listening and practicing. And listening and practicing, obviously, when we listen, my master say is, when you listen, you discern the Dharma. But I think more importantly is to have that penetrative knowing. And those are the spiritual insights for one to realize, so that then one can practice well. So when we feel afflicted upon seeing people or cause people, we see who see us to feel unhappy, or if they judge and talk about us and so on, we must understand, engage in self-reflection. This is because all affliction of views and thinking are not yet eliminated. So we cannot control what other people think of us. And so we got to learn to accept whatever is being said or whatever is done to us, and that's not easy. So lessons learned. When our afflictions of views and thinking are completely eliminated, we will worry often. Before our afflictions of views and thinking are completely eliminated, we will worry often because we are afflicted. So we worry about impermanence, when impermanence will strike. Will we live tomorrow? We don't know. We worry about losing what we have attained because of our possessions. We worry about suffering from illness in life. We worry about aging, illness, and death. So these are many, many worries. And all these things originate from our minds. So I think to understand this in the Dharma, I think that's easy enough to understand. To get into practice when that condition arises, it's not easy to practice. And that's why we got to be so mindful. So this metaphor for delusions of views, which is dust. So dust is a metaphor delusion of our thinking. So when the views are caused, and thinking is subtle. The views are caused, but the views that I hold, but always thinking is very subtle, because that's why sometimes we do not know what the other person thinks. So therefore, when we want to eliminate this affliction, views are easy to identify, but thinking is not easy because it can arise at any moment in time and at any point. So both and that follow one another. And this arises from delusion, karma, and suffering in this cyclic existence. So if we do not quickly eliminate seeds of delusion, karma, and suffering, this habitual tendencies will remain in our minds. So therefore, we undertake in this lifetime to eliminate as much as possible all the afflictions that we have. But to do that, we must first need to understand ourselves, who we are, what is it that we are doing. And unless we do that, our thoughts that arises will not be easy to get eliminated. So, contemplation. The illumination of realization of inner knowing comes from between the moments of non-thoughts. And this inner knowing is the point that I mentioned earlier on, but when you listen to the Dharma, and after understanding that, we need to try to gain the realization, and that's the illumination realization. But if you want to go beyond your mind, then you got to learn to get in the moments of non-thoughts to gain that realization. So the moment of non-thoughts is when the mind is in stillness and not engaging with your thoughts, and that's simple enough to understand. But we are the thoughts of the worldly mind. So the illumination of nature or through suchness can then shine through for you. And otherwise, whatever illumination has been is all piled up with all these worldly thoughts. So to realize the true nature of things, of what they ought to be, and that's what we should endeavor to do if we want to realize the illumination of that realization of the teaching. So on relationship, these are the difficulties in relationship, and we all do, we all have, and I have. You learn much more from difficulties than smoothies in your life. And so therefore difficulties are not necessarily bad, So difficulties strengthen your resolve and gain you the experiential learning. So experiential learning to know about yourself, to learn about the conditions, and also to learn about others. So difficulties require the effort to overcome. Smoothies do not train you to overcome difficult conditions because everything is going away. I'm not sure whether you come across one who has never faced failure. And the moment they face a failure, they don't know what to do. I just received news just now this morning. I'm not sure whether you heard of McAfee. It's a very famous antivirus software that you inside the computer, McAfee. He got caught for tax evasion. And when the US government put him to jail, and I just read the news this morning, he just committed suicide. So we never know all these difficult conditions that we face. So unknowingly, one can be consumed into thinking that one is having the right way of living. And because everything's going on my way. So not realizing that others may have succumbed to one's powerful demeanor when you succumb to what is dangling in front of you. So always be humble and be amongst the ordinary to keep your head low so that you are always grounded in your practice. Okay, Kanan, brothers and sisters, thank you.
We can't thank BrotherChin enough for the daily wonderful sharing. Accept our deepest content. Okay, we shall take our group photo. Everyone, please on